What if I told you that the brightest entrepreneurs of our time don't have better memories than you? What if their true superpower was an AI tool so exclusive you've never even heard of it? A tool that doesn't just organize their lives, but automates their very thought process. In the next 14 minutes, I'm going to tell you a story, inspired by real events, about the discovery of this system. We'll explore not only what it is, but more importantly, why it's kept a secret. And most importantly, I'll show you the fundamental principles so you can start building your own version today. Forget everything you think you know about productivity apps. We're stepping into another dimension. Motivational, rhythmic music fades in. Chapter 1: The Myth of Infinite Memory. We all have this image in our minds. The visionary CEO who, in the middle of a meeting, recalls an obscure detail from a report read 6 years prior and makes a connection no one else saw. We think, what a genius. What an incredible memory. We attribute it to innate talent, an exceptional brain capacity. But it's a myth. A carefully cultivated illusion. The truth is, the human brain, even the most brilliant, is terribly fallible. It forgets. It distorts. It struggles to connect information distant in time and context. These leaders know it better than anyone. And instead of fighting this limitation, they've bypassed it. They don't try to have a better brain. They've built a second brain, external, infallible, and powered by artificial intelligence that never sleeps. I stumbled upon this reality by chance, while talking with someone who worked for years in the shadow of one of these tech titans. She told me how her boss seemed to have constant flashes of genius, connecting concepts from biology, ancient philosophy, and finance into a single coherent sentence. She thought, like everyone else, that he was just smarter. Until the day she saw the interface. An interface that looked like nothing she'd ever seen. It wasn't a simple note manager. It was a dynamic map of his mind. And that's where it all began. Chapter 2: The Discovery of Cognisynth. Let's call this system Cognisynth. That's not its real name, because it doesn't have a public one. Each version is proprietary, customized, secret. The story this person told me is fascinating. One day, her boss accidentally shared his screen during a video conference, for a fraction of a second. But that was enough. What she saw was neither a spreadsheet nor a text document. It was a kind of 3D galaxy, a network of glowing nodes. Some small, others enormous, all interconnected by pulsating lines of different colors. At the center, a question he had just typed. And instantly, dozens of nodes lit up, paths traced between them, bringing forth concepts she knew were relevant but that, on the surface, had no direct connection. One node was a voice memo he'd recorded while jogging 3 years prior. Another was a highlighted passage in a book about the Roman Empire. A third was the transcription of an informal conversation he'd had with a biologist. And Cognisynth didn't just display them. It generated a real-time synthesis, a short text explaining the hidden connection between these 3 elements. That was his secret. Not his memory. But a system that allowed him to access the entirety of his past knowledge and extract patterns invisible to the naked eye. It's not a tool for remembering what you've learned. It's a tool for thinking with what you've learned, on a superhuman scale. But how exactly does it work? The most surprising thing isn't the technology, but the principles that govern it. Chapter 3: Principle number 1: Total, frictionless capture. The first pillar of Cognisynth is radical, total capture. Absolutely everything that enters the user's brain is captured and ingested by the system. I'm not talking about taking a few notes in a meeting. I'm talking about a constant stream of information. Every book read is digitized and highlighted, every online article saved, every podcast listened to transcribed, every important conversation recorded and retranscribed. Even fleeting thoughts. The assistant explained that her boss had an app on his phone and watch. All he had to do was press a button and dictate an idea. Note: could the fractal structure of ferns apply to the organization of decentralized teams? 2 seconds. That's it. No filing, no folders, no manual tagging. The idea is set raw into the system. This is where AI first comes into play. In the background, a dedicated AI analyzes, transcribes, and crucially, pre-categorizes each piece of information. It identifies key concepts, fractals, management, decentralization, entities, people, places, sentiment, curiosity, urgency, and automatically connects this new note to other existing notes that share similar concepts. The golden rule is the elimination of all friction. If the act of saving information takes more than 5 seconds, it simply won't be done. That's why these systems heavily rely on voice and automation. The goal isn't to create a neatly organized library. The goal is to create a raw, complete digital twin of your intellectual consumption. But merely accumulating data is pointless. The real power comes from the next step, and that's where 99% of note-taking systems fail. Chapter 4, Principle number 2, Intelligent Connection, not Categorization. Here's the most crucial paradigm shift. Traditional systems, Evernote, folders on your computer, are based on categorization. You create a marketing folder, a projects folder, an ideas folder. This method mimics physical filing cabinets. But your brain doesn't work that way. Your brain works by association. A smell reminds you of a childhood memory, which makes you think of a person, which leads you to an idea. Cognisynth is designed to mimic and amplify this process. It doesn't categorize, it connects. When new information comes in, the AI doesn't ask, which folder should I put this in? It asks, to which of the hundreds of pieces of information already present could this new idea be connected, even in a distant and non-obvious way? The example the assistant gave me was astounding. Her boss was reading a book about bee swarm strategy. The AI automatically created a link between a passage on bee communication and an old note about logistics problems in a warehouse. Humanly, it would have taken an incredible stroke of luck to make that connection. For the AI, it was a simple matter of pattern detection. Both notes discussed decentralized communication to coordinate autonomous agents toward a common goal. The system doesn't just say these two notes are linked. It qualifies the link. It can tag it as structural analogy, contradiction, concrete example. Over time, what you have is no longer a database, but a network of thoughts. A web of meaning. You stop searching for information. You start exploring the relationships between information. This is a fundamental difference. And it's what leads to the system's true magic. Chapter 5, Principle number 3, Active on-demand synthesis. Now that everything is captured and connected, how do you use it? This is the third pillar, active synthesis. You don't query Cognisynth like you query Google. You don't search for keywords. You ask it complex, open-ended questions. The assistant described a scene to me. Before a strategic meeting, her boss wouldn't reread dozens of reports. He'd open the interface and pose a question like, synthesize the arguments against our current strategy, drawing on the principles of game theory I've read, customer feedback from the last quarter, and our main competitors' strategies. Presented as 3 major risks with concrete examples pulled from my notes. And then, the incredible happens. The AI doesn't just pull up relevant notes. It acts like a world-class researcher who has read your entire brain. It navigates the connections it has created, identifies the most pertinent patterns, extracts quotes from books, snippets of conversations, statistics from reports, and drafts an original synthesis. A document that has never existed before, custom created in seconds. This is what automating your brain means. It's not about letting the AI think for you. It's about delegating the tedious work of research, connection, and structuring, so you can focus on higher-level thinking, decision-making, creativity, strategy. The AI assembles the Lego bricks in a relevant way, and you decide what to build. It's an intellectual sparring partner. Now, the obvious question arises, if it's so powerful, why have you never heard of it? Chapter 6: The Secret of Exclusivity. The reason Cognisynth isn't an app you can download from the App Store is simple: it's an absolute competitive advantage. Think about it. If you had a system that multiplied your ability to innovate and make informed decisions tenfold, would you share it with the whole world, including your competitors? Of course not. These systems are developed internally, by private teams of developers and data scientists, at a cost running into millions of dollars. They are custom-tailored to their users' way of thinking. The interface, the connection algorithms, the type of syntheses generated, everything is personalized. Using such a tool is like upgrading from a bicycle to a fighter jet. The performance gap is so vast it becomes a strategic secret, on par with a chemical formula or a trading algorithm. Furthermore, there's the issue of confidentiality. The user pours their entire intellectual life into it, their doubts, their wildest ideas, their most secret strategies. Entrusting that to a third-party company, even with all the guarantees in the world, is a risk these individuals are not willing to take. That's why they build their own digital fortress. It's the moat that protects their most valuable capital, their ability to think better and faster than others. This might seem discouraging, as if this advantage is out of reach. But that's not entirely true. Because even if you can't buy the tool, you can apply its principles. And that's the most important thing. Chapter 7: How to Build Your Own Mini Cognisynth. You don't need millions of dollars to start thinking this way. You can replicate 80% of the benefits with 20% of the effort by combining existing tools and adopting the right principles. Here's a simple roadmap to get started today. First, capture. Choose a primary tool to centralize your notes. Applications like Obsidian or Logseq are excellent because they are based on connections, backlinks, rather than folders. Next, automate capture. Use an application like Readwise to automatically sync everything you highlight in your Kindle books, online articles, and even tweets. For voice thoughts, use your phone's dictation app to quickly send text to your note-taking app via a simple automation. The goal is to reduce friction as much as possible. Second, connection. This is a mindset shift. Every time you create a new note, ask yourself, what other note does this remind me of? And create a link. Initially, it will be manual. But by using tools like Obsidian, you'll start to see graphical connections forming. Gradually, you'll build your own network of thought. Third, synthesis. This is where public AIs become useful. You can copy-paste several of your notes on a given topic into a tool like ChatGPT-4 or Claude and ask it a synthesis question. For example, here are 5 notes on customer psychology and 3 notes on product design. Find 3 conceptual bridges between these 2 areas and propose an innovative feature idea. You're manually doing what Cognisynth does automatically. It's not as integrated, but the principle is the same. You're forcing the connection and creation of new ideas from existing blocks. The goal isn't to have a perfect tool. The goal is to start treating information not as a passive consumer, but as an architect of knowledge. Every idea you capture is a brick. Every link you create is the cement. And every synthesis you generate is a part of the edifice. Music becomes more subdued, conclusive. Ultimately, the secret of billionaire entrepreneurs isn't some magical software. It's a discipline. The discipline of systematically capturing their thoughts, actively connecting them instead of passively categorizing them, and using them as springboards to generate new ideas. Cognisynth is merely the most advanced technological expression of this discipline. You now have the keys to understanding this method and the tools to start applying it on your own scale. Stop wishing for a better memory. Start building a better system. The true advantage isn't in the information you consume, but in the connections you're capable of creating. And that, no AI will ever be able to do without your initial impulse. Your curiosity is the engine. The tools are merely the vehicle. Don't forget to subscribe.